This is the Sunday stream opening song because the other song is copyrighted. La 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 la. Oh look, here comes Dog Cat Fox.
Hi, Sky.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Sunday stream. The stream I do on Sundays because Sunday is the day to stream on Sundays. Hope you're all doing well on this beautiful Sunday morning. It's actually quite nice out right now. It's got that sort of like slowly sun coming up over the horizon kind of thing. It's just a little gloomy out, but it's getting brighter. Hope you're all having a good Sunday morning. Yes, we return once again to the wonderful world of news stories over the week that caught my attention in one way, shape, or form, and also an opportunity for me to pontificate on different things in the world, because what else would I do with my time? Except, work and stuff. All that worked stuff. But who's joining me on this beautiful Sunday morning? Let's see, we have Kiever Dam. Good morning, Kiever Dam. And thank you, Kiever Dam, for providing the link to the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society donation page. Please, guys, if you have an opportunity, please take a look at that up at the top of the chat box. If you can donate, please do so. And even if you can't, if you can share that out on social media, that would be appreciated. So thank you for that ahead of time. And thank you, Kiever Dam, for providing the link. Advocatus Diaboli, good morning. Simon Willikins, good morning. And if you do fall asleep, I hope it is restful sleep. Mike R., good morning. Somnamnul Nation, good morning. TF Yorks, good morning to you. Mr. X51, good morning. Who else is here? Kiro Soldier, good morning. Faustonia, good morning to you. Green Badger Outdoors, good morning. The Best Renemy, good morning to you. The Alexander, not Noah Alexander or Noah Alexander Asensio, but I guess you are the only one. The only Alexander. TC LaChance. Yes, it has been a while since you've been here. I haven't had the opportunity to say that dramatic introduction in quite a while. Good morning, TC LaChance. Viva LaChance. Ryan R., good morning. Resolute Germ, good morning to you. Who else is here? Meh, good morning. Shadowclaw, awoo. Derek LaRue, good morning to you. And thank you, Derek, as always, for your incredible generosity and support. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Let me put a little message in the chat there specifically. Now they can reply to super chats. And other people can like them too, So if anybody likes what Derek does, you can like that. Also, like the stream if you haven't already. I hear that's also a good thing. Kay Scholl, good morning. Leanna Johnston, good morning to you. Oh, Jill Powers, the River Daughter. Good morning, Jill. Nice to see you here. Hope you're having a good morning. Josh Hammond, good morning to you. Anybody else before I move on? Let's see. Seftus Wolf, good morning. And Psionic Dreams, good morning. Weren't you previously in blue? Or are you a different Psionic Dreams? Maybe I'm mixing people up. Maybe different people have the same handle or something. But I seem to recall at one point there was a Psionic Dreams in blue, if I'm getting that correct. You have to correct me if I'm wrong. But either way, good morning, everyone. Yes, welcome to Sunday. We have a lot to cover today. A whole bunch of stuff happened and different things that caught my attention. So let's get right into it. Let's start off with the one of the more interesting stories out of this past week. That being that apparently Russia has had to go to North Korea for support. Yeah. Mike Savage is chopped liver? Well, no, you're just blarg. I just take you for granted, that's all. Like chopped liver. Good morning, Mike Savage. Also, dog backwards. Cat forwards? Dog cat fox? Sideways? I don't know. Only one me, as far as I'm aware. I seem to remember there was someone long ago that had like some. I think it was Psionic Dreams in Blue, or it could be something Dreams in Blue. Maybe I'm having a moment. Either way, So Russia is so desperate now, apparently, for personnel that they've bought the North Korean expansion pack for their military, which is. I mean, not a really good sign for Russia as far as I can tell, but let's Let's get some information from the experts at CNN. At least 3,000 North Korean soldiers arrived in eastern Russia this month, the White House said Wednesday. And while it remains unclear what exactly they will do, it is a, quote, highly concerning probability, unquote, that they will join the fight against Ukraine. Quote, we assess that between early to mid-October, North Korea moved at least 3,000 soldiers into eastern Russia, unquote, National Security Council spokesman John Kirby said. Quote, we assess that these soldiers traveled by ship from the Wonsan area in North Korea to Vladivostok, Russia. We do not yet know whether these soldiers will enter into combat alongside the Russian military, but this is certainly a highly concerning probability. After completing training, these soldiers could travel to Western Russia and then engage in combat against the Ukrainian military. And that would suddenly bring a whole other country into the war, at least by extension. Earlier Wednesday, Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin was the first senior U.S. official to confirm on the record that North Korea had deployed troops to Russia as North Korea and Russia have forged increasingly friendly ties since Moscow's invasion of Ukraine, especially since Moscow's ties with other countries have withered since they invaded Ukraine. Quote, we are seeing evidence that there are North Korean troops that have gone to Russia, Austin told reporters traveling with him in Rome on Wednesday. Quote, what exactly they're doing is left to be seen, unquote. I suppose so. The U.S. does not believe the North Korean troops have reached Ukraine, but the movements have generated deep concern as a potentially serious escalation in the conflict. Austin said the U.S. is still trying to determine what role the North Koreans will play and whether they intend to travel to Ukraine. I'm wondering if they're not there to supplement something, or maybe it's just in training, but if they actually take part in the combat, that's cray-cray. That's like the plot from a video game or something. Maybe like Jungle Strike or Desert Strike or something. Quote, if they're a co-belligerent, their intention is to participate in this war on Russia's behalf, that is a very, very serious issue, and it will have impacts not only in Europe, it will also impact things in the Indo-Pacific as well, Austin said. Kirby said Wednesday that the U.S. has briefed the Ukrainian government and are keeping in close consultation with allies and partners. A senior administration official said earlier Wednesday that the training of North Korean soldiers and possible preparation to send them to Ukraine? Wait, what? Send them to find to Ukraine. You mean maybe send them to fight in Ukraine? CNN, this story's been out for several days. Are you still hiring Chris Cillizza as an editor? Okay, send them to find to Ukraine is a sign of serious desperation on Russia's part. In Rome, Austin said Putin, quote, may be even in more trouble than most people realize, unquote. Kirby added that turning to North Korea for manpower, quote, would be a sign of weakness, not strength, on the part of the Kremlin, unquote. Kirby also said the move is a violation of UN Security Council resolutions. Well, okay, hey UN, punish him. Oh, that's right. If you actually did try to move to punish Russia, they just veto it. So what's the point? Asked what North Korea will get in return for helping Russia with manpower, Austin said the U.S. is still trying to determine that as well. I'm guessing some kind of benefit in oil costs or weapons exchange or technology or something, or intelligence. Or maybe just that alcohol that Kim Jong-un likes so much. In recent months, Moscow and Pyongyang have deepened their anti-United States military partnership, and the growing alliance has concerned officials in Kyiv. Not our Kyiv, but Kiev and Washington. Quote, I can tell you one thing, though, Kirby said Wednesday. If they do deploy to fight against Ukraine, they're fair game, they're fair targets, unquote. Yeah, and I'm sure they're like, hey, U.S., or, Ukraine, fight our guys and give us a reason to declare war with you officially this time. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has repeatedly warned that North Korean troops are joining the war on Russia's behalf, telling a NATO summit last week that 10,000 quote-unquote soldiers and technical personnel were being prepared. A source in Ukrainian intelligence previously told CNN that a small number of North Koreans have been working with the Russian military, mostly to help with engineering and to exchange information on the use of North Korean ammunition. Is North Korean ammunition special or something? I thought I just put it in the gun and pull the trigger, but whatever. Meanwhile, South Korea's spy agency, the National Intelligence Service, Sounds kind of generic. Said Friday that North Korea had shipped 1,500 soldiers, including special forces fighters, to Russia for training. So we have anywhere from 1,500 to 10,000 North Korean military personnel of some kind or another being involved in Russia's war on Ukraine. Yeah, that's interesting. And could, once you start bringing in other nation states into a war like that, yeah, if Ukraine kills a North Korean soldier, or U.S. armaments end up killing a North Korean soldier, all of a sudden, I don't know. I don't know what happens with this. Like I said, this sounds like the plot to some cheesy 90s spy movie or certain video games of the past, where North Korea and Russia team up. But I guess we'll just have to see how it turns out. Shadowclaw, UN, there is a conflict. We must do something. UN, send the Peace Corps. Yeah. Hey, everybody, can't we all just get along? We can just get along, right? Can't we? Or, the UN Security Council gets together and says, we're going to pass this resolution to censure Russia for all its things. And Russia says, veto. And it just doesn't happen. Resolute Germ, this is mainly a training up of the Koreans. Most of the North Korean forces have little practical experience. Could be. Could be just like a joint training exercise or something. But again, you start putting North Koreans on the front line. But then why would, if it's just a training thing, if it's just like, hey Russia, our guys need some, on-the-job training for our military. Can we come over? What's the exchange? What's Russia getting out of it? If they're just expending their resources and putting other people on, there's more to consider there than just a training operation, but it could be. TC LaChance, North Korea's Cold War era tech they got from Soviet Russia. What are they teaching the Russians? Yeah, I don't know. What engineering prowess does North Korea possess that they didn't just crib from somebody else? Unless they cribbed from somebody that Russia hasn't cribbed from, maybe that's it? I don't know. Let's see. And Bishop says, they are already in Ukraine. North Korea is a military cult. Well, again, this story is at least a couple of days old. Maybe things have changed since then. I didn't see any hot updates or anything. So that's the latest as far as that goes. But anyway, so that's story number one that caught my eye over the week. And I'm actually kind of surprised it hasn't gained more traction or attention than this one story. It's been buried so far. Uh-oh, your mic sounds a little fuzzy. Does my mic sound a little fuzzy? Okay. Well, what did I change about my mic recently? I can turn down the gain a little bit. Okay, I've turned down the gain. Is it less fuzzy now? Hope it's not too fuzzy. Fuzzy Wuzzy was a bear. Fuzzy Wuzzy has no hair. When I talk louder. Okay, well, I'll turn the gain back down. Try talking louder. Hello, my baby. Hello, my honey. Hello, my ragtime gal. Da 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 da. Ya da 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 da. That better? Let me know. I'm so paranoid about my sound levels and my sound quality. As you guys know, I have sort of a complex about it. So let me know if that sounds better. It sounds good to me, says TC LaChance. I'd say so. Okay. Well, then I'll leave it there. I won't try to mess with anything else. I didn't think I messed with anything before, but who knows. All right, well, now that that's hopefully fixed, let's move on to the next story. Which one shall we do? Oh, how about the Washington Post? Boy, oh boy. The Washington Post. Have you guys heard about this? This is honestly insane to me. Well, maybe not that insane, but it really does uncover something that everybody else would try to deny of themselves, seemingly, in the media. So, the Washington Post is in deep turmoil as Bezos remains silent on non-endorsement. Let's go through this. One day after the Washington Post announced it would not endorse a presidential candidate in this year's election or in the future, its billionaire owner remains silent as the newspaper's staff are in turmoil. In turmoil. Oh my gosh. Keep it down. Sorry for the... No need to apologize. If my sound... Look, I have no camera. I'm not planning on putting my face on anytime soon. So the only outlet through which I can try to entertain people or inform is my voice and therefore my sound quality, not my facial expressions or my entrancing eyes or my well-trimmed goatee. No, only my voice. So if my voice is not coming through as best quality as I can make it, then we got big problems. So no need to apologize for that. In fact, if anybody else notices anything off about the sound quality or anything else, just let me know, because I care about that. It really is my only vehicle for getting information across. Jeff Bezos so far has so far declined to comment on the situation, even as his own paper's journalist reported that it was Bezos who ultimately spiked the planned endorsement. All right, so remember, guys, a newspaper publication, and this isn't anything new, and it's actually kind of antithetical to the whole idea of journalistic integrity and objectivity, and just as a critique of the powerful in the world. Newspapers endorsing presidents never made any sense to me, unless you just wanted to give away all of your objectivity and or were just pandering to one side of the aisle for hopefully, access media kind of stuff. It's sort of like video game journalists just one-upping everything that some company puts out just so they can get all the invites and the convention gift bags and all that other stuff. Yeah, but anyway, so Bezos decided not to endorse anybody this time. Let's see. A source with knowledge. I miss familiar with the matter. I really do miss someone familiar with the matter. Told CNN on Friday that an endorsement of Vice President Kamala Harris had been drafted before it was squashed. In the last 24 hours, at least one editor has resigned, and high-profile Post staffers have publicly expressed their dismay, as many in the paper's opinions section are furious over how the situation was handled. Why aren't you letting us take a side, Jeff Bezos? Come on, we want to take an official side in this political gambit, as a journalistic endeavor. Why won't you let us do that, Jeff Bezos? And thank you so much, Asan, for the how's it going, Dogcat Fox. Oh, Dogcat Fox.
Wow. Wow.
Oh, there's a Sinatra Says Dogcat Fox. Thank you so much, Asan. Appreciate it. Let's see. Former Post executive editor Marty Barron, who led the paper under Bezos during the first Trump administration, called the decision an act of quote-unquote cowardice. Unquote. Cowardice. Okay. Quote, to declare a moment of high principle only 11 days before the election that is just highly suspect. And that is just not to be believed. That this was a matter of principle at this point, Barron told CNN's Michael Schmerkonish on Saturday morning. So, to declare a moment of high principle. Okay, so when is the correct time to declare high principle? Like, what, 3 weeks before the election? 6 months? You have a change of heart? What is it that this guy thinks happened? Trump has threatened Bezos continually, Barron noted. But when Barron was in charge of the newspaper, Bezos, quote, resisted that pressure, and he was proud and grateful for that leadership. So wait a second. Trump has threatened Bezos continually. And during the time that Barron was editor of the newspaper, under the Trump administration, Bezos resisted that pressure. And what happened to the Washington Post as a result from the Trump administration? What happened to Jeff Bezos as a result from the Trump administration? What actions did the Trump administration take to get revenge on the Washington Post during Trump's tenure when Bezos resisted that pressure? I'm not saying anything because, as far as I know, and of course if something had happened we would have heard about it, nothing happened. So if going against Trump had no real consequences, because that would be the government interfering with a newspaper publication and be a really, really major scandal, why would Bezos now... I mean, again, this reminds me so much, and I said this on Twitter yesterday or the day before. It really is 2016 again, right? Bezos has effectively chosen neutrality. And what is the interpretation of that? Oh, well, now he's de facto giving in to Trump. It couldn't be that he just decided, all things considered, and seeing as how closely divided the country is on this, it doesn't make any sense to pick a side. In fact, it's probably more journalistically integral that we don't pick a side. It couldn't just be that. But since he decided not to endorse anybody, somehow that means that he gave in to Trump. This is exactly what happened to me and my best friend back in 2016. I said I was not going to vote in the presidential. I didn't like Trump for certain reasons. I didn't like Clinton for certain reasons. I was going to abstain from voting in the presidential. And for that sin, my best friend accused me of de facto supporting Trump because I wasn't supporting Clinton. And she dumped me. I've told this story many times before. This reminds me of that so much. Neutrality equals partisanship, apparently. Quote, Bezos has other commercial interests, a big stake and Amazon? You mean in Amazon? He has a space company called Blue Origin, Barron said. Again, this is Marty Barron, not like Barron Trump. Quote, Trump has threatened to pursue his political enemies, and he rewards his friends, and he punishes his perceived political, and think... Okay, I'm hoping that this is just quoted verbatim, that this guy stumbled over his words, even though he's supposedly an editor of newspapers. But I'm going to read it again as it's written. Quote, Trump has threatened to pursue his political enemies, and he rewards his friends, and he punishes his perceived political, and think there's no other explanation for what's happening right now, unquote. Okay. Well, let me put it this way. I assume it is possible that Trump may test the boundaries of what he can do given the precedent that Joe Biden has set. I hope he doesn't, because that would mean he's just as bad as Joe Biden. If Trump actually weaponized the DOJ to go after his political enemies and so on and so forth, I'd be as much against that as I am against Biden doing it. So I hope he doesn't. But the question still remains. What did he do while he was president that you are afraid of now? This is what keeps happening. It's like Biden was never president and Trump was never president previously. Trump is going to do this and Trump is going to do that. And I heard all this stuff the last time Trump ran, and none of it happened. Barron said Post publisher Will Lewis's defense of the non-endorsement was laughable. Well, what was his defense? Noting that the Post has endorsed in other races. It's true. They have. So they can't change their minds? Quote, if their philosophy is readers can make up their own minds on the big issues that they face in this democracy, then don't run any editorials, unquote. No. See, here's the difference, Marty. An editorial is someone's personal opinion. The newspaper as an institution of purported journalistic integrity making an endorsement is different. Okay? An endorsement of a candidate from an institution as though they're representing all of this media outlet, that's different than an individual putting their name on an editorial and saying in an opinion piece. Okay. And do you notice sometimes, Marty, that editorials run in the Washington Post can be on completely different sides of the aisle? That they can run competing editorials week by week? Do you notice that too? What is an endorsement except taking a side, Marty? Then don't run any editorials, Barron said. Quote, but the fact that they decided not to run an editorial in this one instance 11 days before the election, it's different than an endorsement is different than an editorial, Marty. I don't know if you understand this. In a statement to CNN on Saturday, Lewis pushed back on reports about Bezos' role in the endorsement decision. Quote, reporting around the role of the Washington Post owner and the decision not to publish a presidential endorsement has been inaccurate, Lewis said. Quote, he was not sent, did not read, and did not opine on any draft. As publisher, I do not believe in presidential endorsements. We are an independent newspaper and should support our readers' ability to make up their own minds, unquote. Okay. But obviously, Jeff Bezos just caved to Trump pressure. So is Lewis lying? Is that what Marty Barron is having to say about it? Several current Post journalists, and I use that term loosely now, told CNN they have no problem with the editorial board not endorsing in any situation, with some actively agreeing with the decision. But they all found the timing of the announcement extremely troubling. Quote, deciding that now, right before an election, puts us in a lose-lose position. Cowards for caving or whining over not endorsing Harris, which the Trump campaign is already trying to use to undermine us, unquote, one Post journalist told CNN. Well, the fact that you're complaining over not publishing a pre-drafted endorsement for one candidate does make it sound like you guys were in the tank to begin with. But cowards for caving. Caving to what? Specifically, what? Another told CNN that, quote, people are angry and feel like senior managers are undermining the journalism. What journalism? What is the journalistic value in endorsing one particular political candidate as a news organization? Where is the journalism? Where is the we present what we have found and the reader gets to decide for themselves in a presidential endorsement? Others express deep concern that a wave of readers reacting to the news have canceled their subscriptions, something that will directly impact the newsroom's ability to function. Well, if everybody that was reading the Washington Post was just looking to have their own opinions affirmed back to them, and now that they haven't been, they don't want to subscribe anymore, I guess that's their decision. It's like, well, and also, if it is so, then they're basically confessing that I want to live in an echo chamber. Maybe that's something that they need to reflect on. And is that the kind of readership motivation you really want to, garner to yourself? It's like, we only want people who agree with us to read our paper. Like, okay. Robert Kagan, a Post columnist and opinion editor at large who had been with the paper for 25 years, publicly resigned on Friday as a direct result of the non-endorsement. Quote, this is obviously an effort by Jeff Bezos to curry favor with Donald Trump in the anticipation of his possible victory, Kagan told CNN's Aaron Burnett out front on Friday. And so, obviously, Mr. Kagan, as a journalist, you have some evidence of this. You have some quotes, some documents, some conversations you've had with people familiar with the matter on the subject, right? It's not just an accusation you're making into the ether because of a decision that was made that could be completely ambiguous, as is the absence of an endorsement. No, you know that Jeff Bezos caved to Donald Trump now, before he's president again, when he didn't while he was president. Now suddenly Jeff Bezos caved. Okay. Trump has threatened to go after Bezos' business. Bezos runs one of the largest companies in America. They have tremendously intricate relations with the federal government. They depend on the federal government. I think they depended on the federal government while Trump was president. What did Trump do to go after or destroy Bezos' business while he was president? Seriously. And if I can't think of it, it doesn't mean it didn't happen. But if CNN is reporting on this, if you're reporting on this, you can obviously offer up some kind of evidence, right? Some example where this happened, where it wasn't just rhetoric or Trump being a blowhard about something, where he actually used the mechanisms of the federal government to attack Jeff Bezos or attack Amazon. When did this happen? On Friday, Trump met with executives from Blue Origin, the space exploration company owned by Bezos, hours after the Post announced its decision Friday. Okay, so is that meant to say that these two things are connected? Like, after they announced the decision, then Trump is friendly to Blue Origin? I mean, if you have evidence of some kind of pay-for-play thing, then by all means. The company has a $3.4 billion contract, the $3.4 billion contract with the federal government to build a new spacecraft to transport astronauts to and from the moon's surface. So it has a pre-established contract that is already being fulfilled. And going back to the moon was something that Trump was pushing for under his administration to begin with, while Jeff Bezos was resisting Trump's threats, whatever those were. So let me get this straight. So that a company owned by Jeff Bezos is trying to do a thing that he already has a government contract for that aligns with Trump's stated goals for space and our space exploration and space goals in the future, that he made while he was president previously, during which time he threatened Bezos in some way or put pressure on Bezos that Bezos did not give into. But now, on the cusp of what might be a second Trump presidency, now Bezos is giving in to the pressure on a contract that's already established. I am the confuzzled. I am the confuzzled. I don't understand this logic. Faustonia, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Holy shit! They are worried about losing subscribers as if they haven't been hemorrhaging those already. If they don't endorse a particular candidate, they need to rethink that sentence. You know, if the entire staff of the Washington Post came out and said, you know what? You're right. We shouldn't be taking sides. We should be moving towards a more objective perspective when it comes to politics. And we can take this opportunity, this moment where the country is so divided, to go along with what our subscribers probably think and what new subscribers might think in the future, is that we needed to approach this in a more balanced fashion. It'd be a perfect marketing opportunity, given the polls. Because however this election swings, somebody's going to be ticked off. A large swath of the country is going to be ticked off. And if the Washington Post think they're going to get more subscribers or open up their subscriber base by taking a side now, you know, this might just be wise marketing. But no. Bezos gave in to Trump, guys. That's the obvious conclusion. It couldn't be something more capitalistic. Trump advisors and supporters have been crowing since both the Post and the Los Angeles Times' billionaire owners stepped in to prevent their papers from endorsing Harris. Again, guys, look at the polls. Whoever wins this election, there's probably at least 50% of the country or more that is going to be angry. And if you have a publication who has gone into the tank for one side versus the other in a dramatic way, do you think that 50% of your possible subscriber base is going to trust you or want to pay you money? No. This might be less political than it is just basic economics. But apparently the people at the Post and or the LA Times can't see beyond their own prejudices at the pragmatic nature of the publication and news business these days. Yeah, I don't know if it's principle so much as practical. All the same, it is telling that their first suspicion is, oh, he gave in to Trump. Trump senior advisor Stephen Miller also pounced on the non-endorsement, writing, quote, the Kamala campaign is sinking when even the Washington Post refuses to endorse. You guys, okay, doesn't matter which side you're talking about here. You guys don't know their rationale, right? It's like, oh, we think Kamala is a terrible candidate. Oh, we think Trump's a better candidate. Okay, I think it's far more cynical than that. I think it's just practical capitalism talking. Reading the tea leaves of your potential subscriber base for the next 4 years and saying maybe we shouldn't just take a side right now. It's too close to call. If it was a sure thing, if we knew that one or the other was going to be a landslide and therefore we'd be the paper of record for that candidate and all his supporters, maybe. But I don't think they can make that calculation now. Earlier in the week, the Trump campaign used the Los Angeles Times' non-endorsement in a fundraising email, citing it a humiliating blow for Harris. Other staffers said the decision not to endorse will ultimately harm American democracy. How? I would love to hear how. How is not endorsing a candidate as a news publication going to harm American democracy when the Fourth Estate is supposed to be there to keep the people in power in check, regardless of who they are or what side of the aisle they're on? Isn't that what we ideally want from our news media? To hold the people in power in check? To hold their feet to the fire and to ask the tough questions and not know ahead of time that MSNBC is a Democratic outlet, that CNN is a Democratic outlet, that Fox News is a conservative outlet? I mean, you want to be known effectively, more so than you already are thought to be, and just basically a branch of state media? Good gravy. Other staffers said the decision not to endorse will ultimately harm American democracy, even though Lewis claimed in his note to readers that the move could not be seen as a, quote, tacit endorsement of one candidate or as a condemnation of another. But you just did that! You said, wait a second. Oh, sorry, Lewis, pardon me. I got mixed up. Pardon me. I was thinking of Marty Barron. Lewis, the guy who took the middle of the road announcement. Pardon me. Sincerely, that was my mistake. I got my individuals mixed up here. Yeah, Lewis, the actual publisher from the Washington Post, is taking the medium line, which is the correct thing to say. So it's not a tacit endorsement of one candidate or as a condemnation of the other, which is exactly where I was at in 2016 by not voting. It's like, I didn't like either candidate for different reasons. I didn't hate them so much, but I wasn't, interested in putting my vote behind either one of them. So I wasn't endorsing one, but I was kind of condemning both in a way. But as far as the news publication is concerned, not giving an endorsement, yeah, that's as middle of the road as you can get. In a joint statement, legendary Post journalists Bob Woodward and Carl Bernstein of Watergate fame, which is really the only fame they have, called the decision, quote, surprising and disappointing, noting the timing of the announcement, quote, ignores the Washington Post's own overwhelmingly reportorial evidence, the threat Donald Trump poses to democracy. Okay. Bob, Carl, again, what is the purpose of journalism? Is it to tell people what to think? Or to give people all the material to make a decision for themselves? Surprising. Well, what if their timing had been right now, just 11 days before the election? How could you possibly do that endorsement so close to the election? Shouldn't have been like 6 months out? You should have already known by their records. What the timing? I don't understand the timing. Like the timing of an endorsement would be somehow good versus the timing of a non-endorsement is bad? It's insane to me. Thank you, Alan Thyler, for the how's it going, Dogcat Fox. Oh, Dogcat Fox.
Wowie, wow, wow.
Ooh, there's a creepy Shadow Claw Dogcat Fox. Thank you so much, Alan. Appreciate it. Let's see. I think we're almost done with this. Let's see. A group of 17 Post opinion columnists also published a statement Friday evening criticizing their own newspaper's decision not to endorse a candidate in the presidential election as a, quote, terrible mistake. The Washington Post decision not to make an endorsement in the presidential campaign is a terrible mistake, they wrote. Okay. Quote, it represents an abandonment of the fundamental editorial convictions of the newspaper that we love and for which we have worked a combined 218 years. Well, maybe you need to find a different outlet that is comfortable being just an echo chamber for one side or the other. I don't know. I've never thought that at least a news publication that wants to be taken legitimately should be endorsing candidates. Lay out the news, tell people what the candidates are up to, what they've said, what they've done, how that compares to their record in the past, and let the people decide for themselves. That's a publication I would have more respect for. But, oh my gosh, they didn't endorse the person we like. They didn't make an endorsement at all. I wonder what would have happened if they'd made an endorsement for Trump. Would they be complaining about the timing? Would they be complaining about, whether or not this is a good thing for the people? Is it just the endorsement, or is it who is not being endorsed? I have to ask. Stevie J, I just assume that people are uninformed boomers if they watch the TV news stations. I wouldn't sell people that short. I guess it all depends on the individual. Super Mutant 2099. Watergate duo have become everything they used to push against. They are not journalists, but Democratic propagandists' ghosts. It really does feel like that. It doesn't feel very objective. The last several cycles, you've seen Bob Woodward doing stories on things, or whenever I hear about him. I hear about Woodward more than I hear about Bernstein. I don't know what Bernstein's up to. But Woodward, I hear, he's always like publishing a new book on something or some insider thing or whatever else. Let's see. And Mess says, technically it should have been called Watergate Gate, as the building's name was not water. Well, that's because the whole Watergate thing was the first. The whole gate suffix is a result of Watergate, and people just calling things gate. So it's sort of like, how did you know World War I was going to be? You wouldn't have called World War I during World War I because you didn't know there was going to be a sequel, right? So, anyway. So there's that. Yeah, and there's more stories about people freaking out at different publications over the non-endorsements, and it just goes to show that, okay, whenever somebody, if you ever hear of anybody from the Washington Post or any of these other outlets, whether they're broadcast media or publication media, complaining about the Washington Post not endorsing somebody or not endorsing Kamala or freaking out about this, just wait until the next time they complain about Fox News being a conservative outlet. Right? Anybody from the Washington Post who's complaining now ever criticizes Fox News again for being a conservative mouthpiece, just turn this back on them. And really, I mean it. Just say, look, either you are reaching for objectivity, because objectivity is one of those things. It's sort of like to form a more perfect union. It is an endless goal, but it's one you have to be at least working towards. Either you're objective or you're just an agent. Okay, and all this stuff does, all this complaining says, you're an agent. You're an agent of one side versus the other, and your opinion can't be trusted to be at least objective. And if that's what you want to be known as, fine. If you want to call yourselves the Washington Post outlet of the Democratic Party, then just say that. Just be honest about it so people know what they're getting into. Don't hide behind this sheen of objectivity because you call yourself journalists if you're going to complain that your favored candidate didn't get endorsed, or the non-endorsement came at the wrong time. What does that mean? I think they think too highly of themselves. They think they actually have the gravitas and meaning and importance of publications of the past. They talk about being around for 218 years. Well, I'll tell you what, the Washington Post does not have the splendor or the reliability or the trust that it may have had 100 years ago, because of things like this. But anyway, thank you again, Faustonia. Bernstein's is literally the guy that CNN puts up to tell everyone how much something is worse than Watergate. That's it. I mean, if you can write one book or do one story that gets you out and free dinners for the rest of your life, hey, so be it. Right? I'm not going to begrudge somebody their successes. But at a certain point, I have to ask, and this is relevant to what? What has Carl Bernstein done? What contributions has he made? What exposés has he put out there within the last 30 years that have meant anything? I don't know. But again, he's just one guy with an opinion. And, no different than me, effectively. I didn't break Watergate, but either way. All right, we got more stories to go through here. Let's see. Who shall we do next? Let's do this one. And if I remember correctly, this came to me by way of Jamie Melquist, I think. And if I'm misappropriating that, my apologies. But this is the mystery person on the thumbnail today that you might not have recognized offhand. Let me stop this video thing before it goes on. Woke Doc refused to publish a $10 million trans kids study that showed puberty blockers didn't help mental health. Now, I think most of us, even those of us who are not medically inclined, could have said, well, duh. But suppressing medical studies, why would she do this? Why would she do this? What is her rationalization for this? A prominent doctor and trans rights advocate, admitted she deliberately withheld publication of a $10 million taxpayer-funded study on the effect of puberty blockers on American children after finding no evidence that they improve patients' mental health. Dr. Joanna Olson Kennedy told the New York Times that she believes the study would be, quote, weaponized, unquote, by critics of transgender care for kids, and that the research could one day be used in court to argue, quote, we shouldn't use blockers, unquote. Well, let me ask you this, doctor. How is that your job to decide? I don't know if you've ever watched an episode of Law and Order, doctor, but there's a classic trope of withholding pertinent evidence from one side of the aisle or the other. If the prosecution suppresses evidence that could be exculpatory in the defense, they get in trouble. And if the defense suppresses evidence that could have been helpful to the prosecution in the course of things, they get in trouble. So, or a police officer, steals evidence or something. So, you took $10 million of taxpayer money effectively and just threw it away. You burned it, or tried to. That should be a crime, I think. I think that should be a crime. If you're somehow responsible for the appropriate expenditure of $10 million of money that is not your own, and you take that study that was paid for with that and try to hide it, I'd almost call that theft after a fashion, but maybe that's just me. Critics, including one of Olson Kennedy's fellow researchers on the study, said the decision flies in the face of research standards and deprives the public of quote-unquote really important science in a field where Americans remain firmly divided. Yeah, and maybe they wouldn't be as divided if they had all the relevant information. Also, can we say Streisand effect? Somebody who paid for that is going to want what they paid for. For the National Institutes of Health-funded study, researchers chose 95 kids who had an average age of 11 and gave them puberty-blocking drugs starting in 2015. That sounds disturbing all by itself, but anyway, the treatments are meant to delay the onset of bodily changes like the development of breasts or the deepening of the voice. And how drastically did this experiment study screw up these kids for the rest of their lives, I wonder? After following up with the youths for 2 years, the treatments did not improve the state of their mental health, which Olson Kennedy chalked up to the kids being, quote, in really good shape, unquote, both when they started and concluded the 2-year treatment. Wait, that's your rationale? There wasn't any change in their mental health, so they were already good. All 95 of them. All 95 kids who had an average age of 11, and over the course of puberty, nothing about their mental health changed. It was all good. It was fine. Okay. However, the Times points out that her rosy assessment contradicts earlier data recorded by the researchers, which found around 1/4 of study participants, quote, were depressed or removal from existence, unquote. I have to be careful here because I don't know what YouTube does with certain words anymore. Ask my true crime friends. Before receiving treatment. You can see it on the screen. The result also does not support the findings of a 2011 Dutch study, which is the primary scientific research cited by proponents of giving kids puberty blockers. That study of 70 kids found that children treated with puberty blockers reported better mental health and fewer behavioral and emotional problems. Yeah, puberty blockers, guys, they're antidepressants. Apparently. I mean, they may affect, how your body grows, but they also make you feel great. They're happy pills. You'll be happier if you just suppress your body's natural development. That's all. Olson Kennedy, the outlet points out, is one of the country's leading advocates for providing gender-affirming care to adolescents. Gender-affirming care or gender change indoctrination care? And regularly provides expert testimony. Well, is she an expert? I mean, how many studies or failures on her part has she also not disclosed? Provides expert testimony in legal challenges to state bans on such procedures, which have taken root in more than 20 states. And also actively suppressing evidence that might be relevant in such legal challenges if they don't agree with her philosophy. Okay. When asked by the Times why the results have not been made public after 9 years, she said, quote, I do not want our work to be weaponized. Adding, quote, it has to be exactly on point, clear and concise, and that takes time. It takes time to suppress, apparently. I mean, relevant information to the public is sort of like the natural changes of puberty. You want to stunt them. Sounds good. She then flat out admitted she was afraid the lack of mental health improvements borne out by the study could one day be used in court to argue, quote, we shouldn't use blockers, unquote. Well, you shouldn't use blockers as an antidepressant. I think that's the lesson here, lady. Telling people that, oh no, in addition to stopping your body from developing naturally, it also improve your mood and make you happier. A Washington Post KFF Trans in America survey found that 68% of U.S. adults are against providing puberty blockers to trans-identifying youths aged 10 to 14, and 58% oppose hormone treatments for those ages 15 to 17. I'm actually kind of worried those numbers are as low as they are, honestly. Boston College clinical and research psychologist Amy Tishelman, who is one of the original researchers on the study, pointed out the obvious contradiction in withholding scientific evidence on the grounds it doesn't match an expected conclusion. I know, it's crazy, right? I mean, I already know, without evidence, that these pills will make kids happy in addition to stunting their developmental progress. I already know that. The evidence says otherwise. Well, I still know it's true because this doesn't actually exist anymore. Quote, I understand the fear about it being weaponized. Do you? The truth. The observable, testable truth. Okay. You know what? Anybody can take anything and try to turn it into a cudgel. All right. But if it's the truth, if it is a researched study, it could be challenged by other studies, certainly, but releasing this information is part of the scientific process. So anybody who agrees with suppressing this, or who says, yeah, I guess it could be weaponized, I'm not sure you can legitimately call yourself a scientist anymore. Okay? I really don't. I understand the fear about it being weaponized. This is not the recipe for an atomic bomb, okay? This is a study of whether or not puberty blockers are antidepressants. Stop it. Sorry, I understand the fear about it being weaponized, but it's really important to get the science out there, she told the outlet. Well, you're half right. Because the weaponized thing is just silliness. Quote, no change isn't necessarily a negative finding. There could be a preventative aspect to it, she said hopefully. There could be, but how will we know? Right? I understand that she's the one that says we should release it, but still, she's still hedging her bets. This is anti-science. This is one of those situations where someone has actually committed anti-science, provably so. And as much as I admire this lady for at least saying, well, we should have the science out there, she's still sitting on the fence. We just don't know without more investigation. You're correct. Erica Anderson, a clinical psychologist and a transgender youth expert, can there be such a thing, told the Post she was shocked and disturbed about the decision to withhold publication of such vital research. Well, good for you. Quote, we're craving information about these medical treatments for gender-questioning youth. Dr. Olson Kennedy has the largest grant that's ever been awarded in the U.S. on the subject and is sitting on data that would be helpful to know, she said. Well, golly, I'm more on board with the transgender youth expert than I was with the lady who was sitting on the fence about the whole thing. Quote, it's not her prerogative to decide based on the results that she will or won't publish them, unquote. Correct, because we paid for them. The American taxpayer. It is not her study to sit on. It belongs to us. It doesn't belong to her. She also wasn't buying Olson Kennedy's rationale for holding back the study's findings based on fear of backlash. Quote, it's contrary to the scientific method. Exactly. You do research and then you disclose what the results are, she said. You don't change them, you don't distort them, and you don't reveal or not reveal them based on the reactions of others. You report as scientists what you've learned. Thank you. Thank you, Erica Anderson. Erica Anderson is the star of this story. The absolute star of this story. Correct. In a 2020 progress report submitted to the NIH, Olson Kennedy hypothesized that study participants would show, quote, decreased symptoms of depression, anxiety, trauma symptoms, self-injury, and suicidality, and increased body esteem and quality of life over time. Hypothesized based on what? Hey, maybe Olson Kennedy should have not hypothesized anything and says we're looking to see if puberty blockers have any effect on emotional well-being. And stopped there. This should have been the biggest red flag to whoever was funding her grant. Hypothesized? Hypothesized. I don't know if it was I don't know if it's hypothesized to her. Right? I don't think so. I think that was her true belief. her belief in reality that was not proven. Olson Kennedy appeared to attempt to muddy the waters in her interview with the Times when explaining how her hypothesis didn't pan out. That's not a hypothesis, that's a belief. That is a belief. Two different things. Didn't pan out, claiming participants had good mental health on average. She made this assertion several times, despite saying previously that 25% of the study's young patients were suffering with various mental illness symptoms before treatments began. Oh, but I thought they were all good to begin with. When pressed by the outlet for an explanation for the seemingly contradictory findings, Olson Kennedy attributed it to data averages and said she was, quote, still analyzing the full data set. Well, why don't you let everybody else analyze it too? It's not your research. We paid for it. In April, England's National Health Service disallowed puberty blockers for children following a 4-year review conducted by independent researcher Dr. Hilary Cass, who wrote in her report that, quote, for most young people, a medical pathway will not be the best way to manage their gender-related distress, unquote. I'm glad people are finally waking up to this. It's been too many years and too many people's lives have been just utterly destroyed and mutilated. Last year, Dr. I'm going to try this, Ritakaratu Katiala, a leading Finnish expert on pediatric gender medicine, said in a newspaper interview that 4 out of 5 gender-questioning children will eventually grow out of it and accept their bodies even without medical intervention. Olson Kennedy did not respond to the Post request for comment. Yeah. I think the song had it right. Leave them kids alone. Let them grow up. Don't intervene with crazy cockamamie snake oil presentations. Just stop it. JB, thank you so much. Oh God, what if they start identifying as robots? I know. Then you have to go back to Superman 3, where the lady fell into the machine. Oh man, it just turns into something crazy real quick. Or you got my, what was it? My dead best friend or whatever. What was that movie where the girl was actually like an android brain? Oh man. And thank you again, JB. Mom, Dad, I'm a cyborg now. Please still love me. But as a cyborg, what is love? Baby, don't hurt me. Don't hurt me. No more. I'm gonna get a copyright strike or something. Jill Powers, the River Daughter. All puberty blockers are harmful to children regardless of what they believe. They're kids, damn it. Yeah. Let the kids grow up. When the kid reaches legal age of adulthood, if they have decided they want to do something to themselves one way or the other, that is up to them. When they're developing, let them develop. Kids go through phases. Also, do you know that kids sometimes say things they don't necessarily mean or have all the information for because they're children and want to seek the approval of the adults around them? And if the adults around them and the authority figures they're presented to are in the tank on a particular philosophy, they may just say what you want to hear to make you happy, and then it's just this sort of, cyclical reinforcement process? You think? Good gravy. People are nuts. It's been nuts. I got this. There's a couple of TEDx's I've looked at on this subject. At least 3. Some more disturbing than others, but all of them really disturbing. The wisdom of second graders, or the wisdom of 9-year-olds, I think is whatever I called it. One of my earlier scripted TEDx talks. And the guy on there is just absolutely insidious, right? He takes advantage of scared and uninformed parents, and through them, as proxy, starts molding children into probably lifetime psychological issues and or medical issues. But of course, it's a celebration. It's something loving. It's something caring. Ugh. Anyway, let's move on to our next story. Let's see. We talked about the doctor one. What else do we have? Oh yeah, this is crazy. I saw this and I thought, is this really the beginning of the end for DEI? Is this really the beginning of the end? The hottest trend in executive leadership: bring back the white guy. Everybody, we've reached the next level. I couldn't believe this when I saw the headline. I thought this was like an Onion article or something. Or sorry, Babylon Bee. The Onion's been in the dumps for a long time. But anyway, now this is from CNN's Nightcap, whatever that is. The hottest trend in executive leadership: bring back the white guy. Hey, how about bring back the qualified person? See, I'm even more progressive than this article's title. Bring back the qualified person. Bring back meritocracy. But okay, what do they have to say about this? Before I get to that, thank you, Hoko Sports. Appreciate it. The left, hormones in the food is messing with the kids. Also the left, kids need more hormones. Right. Yeah, I want organic, free range, this, that, and the other. I don't want any GMOs. But let's modify the youngest and most vulnerable among us into the shape of something that we think it should be for the sake of showing off to others about how virtuous we are, how progressive we are. My son put on a dress once and danced around the house. Oh, well, I guess it's just the way it's going to be forever. And now I can be a poster child and get a bunch of attention. Anyway, thank you, Hoko. Appreciate it. So yes, let's listen to this. Listen up, corporate boards. If you're looking for the biggest trend in leadership this fall, look no further. Corporate America's hottest CEO pick is a classic model, the middle-aged white guy. 2024 has been the year of CEO turnover. I don't usually see the year spelled out like that. I usually just see it as the year. I wonder if is there some kind of journalistic rule to that? If you start out a sentence with a year, you have to spell it out? I don't know. I'm not a journalist. I'm just an English major who yaps on the internet. 2024 has been the year of CEO turnover, with some 1,450 having announced their departure so far. Okay, for what reasons? Up 15% from the same period last year. Could it be retirement age hitting? And the highest year-to-date total on record, according to research from executive coaching and outplacement firm Challenger, Gray & Christmas. Challenger, Gray & Christmas. So a space shuttle, 50 Shades of, and a holiday. Okay. Companies are increasingly opting to fill those vacant top spots with a man, the data shows. Oh, wait, so companies are explicitly trying to hire on the basis of gender? Well, that's illegal. In August, the rate of new CEOs who are women fell 0.7% to 27.2% compared with the same period last year. That sounds like far within the margin of error for any kind of meaningful change. But okay. And of course, the ranks of women and people of color have always been thin. Well, they've been proportional to the demographics of the population. Just 52 businesses in the 2024 Fortune 500 ranking were run by women, holding flat from the year before. Okay, so nothing changed. Do you know that women sometimes, and I know this is an odd thing to understand, sometimes women have other priorities than seeking massive amounts of responsibility and a very complex career. They might have other natural inclinations that might, become more of a priority for them than becoming a Fortune 500 CEO. Just saying. Obviously, white guy CEO never went out of fashion. What? Sorry, what? What were you just saying earlier? I don't know if you know this. I've been doing this quite a while now. The notion of a white guy CEO was absolute anathema because of things like always looking at, that only X number of women are Fortune 500 CEOs. It's been out of fashion, at least by major publications and the woke, for at least the last 8 years or so. I don't know. I've been paying attention a little bit. Okay, but obviously, white guy CEO never went out of fashion. Women have rarely represented more than 10% of Fortune 500 companies. Okay, and why is that? People of color are also wildly underrepresented in the C-suite, with just 8 black CEOs in the Fortune 500 this year, down from a peak of 9 last year. Well, golly, do those people have any names? Are there any elements of their makeup that are, more relevant to the idea of being a CEO than just their skin color? Are you listening to yourself? Wildly underrepresented. Is CEO about representation? Is that what it is? But a rash of recent leadership shakeups. Pardon me, one second here. Oh, I thought I was getting a phone call. Pardon me. But a rash of recent leadership shakeups illustrates the enduring power of the white guy as a kind of capsule wardrobe for corporate leadership. What the? See here. See here. That sounds like something a British person would say in trying to state an objection. CVS Health, America's largest drugstore chain, on Friday gave Karen Lynch the boot and replaced her with longtime executive David Joyner. Lynch was effectively the most powerful woman in corporate America as head of CVS, the largest Fortune 500 company with a female CEO. Well, why did they give her the boot? Well, let's find out. In the wake of layoffs and poor stock performance. Oh, so she was bad at her job, is what you're saying. Oh. And so they went to somebody else. So, but why don't you say why she was given the boot, CNN? Okay. Starbucks over the summer abruptly ousted Indian-American Laxman Narasimhan after less than 2 years at the helm, replacing him with Brian Niccol, the former head of Chipotle. Part of that succession involved Melody Hobson, the first black woman ever to chair an S&P 500 company, ceding her director seat to Niccol. Okay, well, why did they oust him? Why? The struggling coffee chain has... So, it's because he was doing a bad job. This past spring, Under Armour replaced Stephanie Linnartz after just a year replaced Stephanie Linnartz after just a year to make way for the return of Kevin Plank, the founder who stepped aside in 2019 amid reports that he and some of the company's other male executives had a habit of charging strip club visits to their corporate cards, among other allegations. Well, why did she lose her job? Was it because she was doing bad? I'm seeing a pattern here. Meanwhile, oh, here we go. Here's a crossover to some friends we have at Midnight's Edge. Meanwhile, Disney's Bob Iger said the company would announce his successor in early 2026. In a shake-up Monday, Disney said that Morgan Stanley CEO James Gorman would be taking over as board chair to help lead the search for Iger's replacement. For those keeping track at home, that's Iger and Gorman, both white men, determining the future of the House of Mouse. What is the point of... Oh my gosh, CNN. For a second there, I thought something else was happening in this article. No, you're still just complaining. Obviously, white guy CEO never went out of fashion, but boy, do we wish it would. Here at CNN. To be clear, what a board decides to do with its chief executive is the board's business. And without even looking at the screen, I'm going, but DEI initiatives have been shown to boost profits. When? And if you do anything to mention the 2015 McKinsey study, DEI initiatives have been shown to boost profits, reduce employee attrition, and increase employee motivation, as my colleague Nathaniel Meyerson has reported. Really? Well, golly, then why do they keep getting rid of these DEI initiatives? I have asked this for years. Show me the clear and distinct line you can draw between the initiation of a DEI program in a company and increased profits, and that you can say, without any other factors involved, it was the DEI that did it. Leadership, diversity in particular, is associated with, quote, holistic growth ambitions, greater social impact, and more satisfied workforces, according to McKinsey research. Of course! That's all McKinsey has banked on for the last 10 years, is that one study they put out that everybody glommed onto to justify their ESG racist nonsense. The business case is clear. It is CNN. Or should I say, who's writing this now? Allison Morrow. That sounds like, wasn't there an MTV VJ named Allison Morrow or something? Or am I just off? Maybe I'm off. Either way, I'm sorry. The business case is not clear. It has not been clear the entire time I've been doing this channel. It's not been clear. It's never been made clear. And that's why they keep defunding DEI programs. I don't know if you've noticed what's happened to DEI over the last several years, even before the affirmative action decision. They were cutting the budgets again and again and again because there is no return on investment. It's very cold equations. Okay, if they invest $20 million in a DEI program for their company, they sure as heck had better see a return on that investment. But over and over and over again, they haven't, because there isn't. There's nothing there. We looked at a video where they interviewed a whole bunch of DEI executives, and the one thing that was common among so many of them was reporting a sense of loneliness in the job. And why is that? Because DEI is not a skill. They have to be involved in every company. They have to be part and parcel with everything a company's doing. And yet, what do they offer the company? You know, the accounting department can do math. The sales department can sell things. What does DEI do? What exactly do they provide? What benefit do they bring to a company or to any individual department within that company? Nothing. Nothing but criticism and oversight and judgy looks or something. You know, and telling people, oh no, you have to hire on the basis of aesthetics, not on talent, not on merit, but that we look good. Not that we perform good, but we look good. We put up a filter, and we hire from the best pool of diverse candidates by routing out everybody else that doesn't fit the bill, and also routing out any potential extra talent that might be out there if they look wrong. The business case is clear because of the McKinsey research. But the reversion to the mean of a white male CEO also is happening at the same time that many firms are backing off their early 2020s commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion, or DEI. Why are they doing that? If the business case is clear, why are they doing that? If it was just a natural result of a decision, you know, if we have a DEI program, our profits go up 300%. Well, heck, let's do that. If that were true, then why are they backing off their early 2020s commitment? All of that coincides with the Supreme Court's decision last year to end affirmative action in colleges. Well, why? You have all the information in front of you to explain what's going on. Why would a decision to end affirmative action in colleges have an effect on corporate DEI programs? Does anything make sense to you anymore? Are the dots not being connected in your mind, or you're not willing to put them in print? I mean, if the business case is clear, but they're reducing their commitments, and there's a legal case that somehow has influenced this, in other words, giant U.S. institutions have created a permission structure for businesses to revert to muscle memory. There may have been a moment circa 2020 or 2022 when replacing a person of color or a woman with a white man may have sparked a public relations debacle. Clearly, major companies don't seem to be sweating the optics anymore. Why might that be? Let's talk about optics. Does optics equal profit? When it comes to hiring people into your business for the sake of their optics, Does that improve your output, or is that a gamble? Rather than hiring people on the basis of their merit first and foremost, regardless of what they look like. This is an amazing article of just fingers in ears, la 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 la. You have everything you need right in this paragraph to make a conclusion, to make an informed conclusion, a critical thinking conclusion. But apparently the end result is those businesses are just racist again and sexist. Oh well, there was a time when they could have, been punished for this, but now I guess we're back to old form. That is just all sorts of crazy. That's an amazing article of just self-delusion and not paying attention to what's right in front of you. How could you be just self-awareness or just awareness of reality? That's nuts. Well, anyway, what do you guys have to say about this? Sounds come Christmas when we swap out the ferns for the poinsettia. Sounds come Christmas. That sounds like some kind of Shakespearean thing. I know it was autocorrect. I know. It still sounds interesting when I say it. Sounds with a Z. Jill Powers says the real racist who supported a senator president who gave the eulogy of a confirmed KKK Grand Cyclops. Wait, who? What? I must have missed a comment there, because I don't know who we're talking about. We're not talking about me. Or did I support which president did I support? I don't know. I don't know what's going on now. CVJ, I think ferns are some of the oldest plants to exist. I'm sure they will outlive the poinsettia and get the last laugh. They outlived the dinosaurs. I am thankful that my recitation of news items spurs on such passionate debates about horticulture in my chat. I really do appreciate that. Yeah. Christmas, it's not even Halloween yet. Dude, if you haven't already started hanging your Christmas lights, you're already behind the times. I don't know what to tell you. You're talking about Biden. Was Biden quoted in there somewhere? Maybe I missed something. I must have missed something. Let's see. Advocates Daily. I hire CEOs based on whether or not they clash with the ferns and the... Oh, that's where the fern thing came from? Okay, I see. And Shadowclaw. I don't celebrate Hipplidays. Hipplidays? Is that like, when somebody has a day off from Hewlett-Packard? I try. Speaking of Hewlett-Packard, if you want to see something about someone lightly complaining about their white CEOs, I have a video on my channel. It's about HP. If you just put in Hewlett-Packard or HP or something, it should come up. It's a lady that I accidentally did 2 videos on, or at least 2 appearances on, because she went from being the chief diversity officer at HP to being the chief diversity officer of the NBA. And I didn't recognize her until she started talking in this interview on the NBA. And I was like, wait a second, I know that voice. I know that cadence. It's so bizarre what things I remember that are stored in the back of my mind. Someone's voice, how they say words and things. It just sparks memories. Anyway, we'll do... Oh, we got time for at least one more. Hold on. We can do another story. We haven't talked specifically about Kamala Harris with this episode so far. And I did put her on the thumbnail, so I figure it behooves me to at least do one story involving Kamala Harris. And here we go. This comes to us from the New York Times. The policy record Harris isn't talking about. Oh, I need a drink of water for this. Cool, clear water. As vice president, Kamala Harris has targeted racial and gender gaps in healthcare, lending, and other areas. She isn't running on that part of her record. Well, why not? Why shouldn't she? Paging through intelligence reports just weeks after she was sworn in as vice president, Sworn in should have a hyphen there, I'm just saying. Kamala Harris, and shouldn't vice president be capitalized? I don't know. Anyway, Kamala Harris was struck by the way 2 female foreign leaders were described. The reports used adjectives that, in her view, were rarely used to describe male leaders. Okay, what were these adjectives? New York Times, what were these adjectives? Okay, Miss Harris, she's married. Shouldn't she be like Mrs. Emhoff or something? Anyway, Miss Harris, the first woman to hold her office, ordered up a review that scrutinized multiple years of briefing reports from various intelligence agencies looking for possible gender bias. So she was word policing intelligence reports. Okay. You want to tell us what those words were? No. The study, remember guys, taxpayer dollars were spent on this too. The study found some questionable word choices, but no widespread pattern, according to a senior intelligence official, one of 5 who requested anonymity to discuss the review. None would disclose the words flagged by Miss Harris because the reports were classified. Adjectives. Out of context, not assigned to an individual, adjectives are classified. Really? Okay, so Kamala Harris got super sensitive about some mystery words, ordered an entire historical study of the text of intelligence reports going back who knows how long, looking for a pattern of these bad words being used. No pattern was detected, and we can't even be told what they were or what all this money was spent on. Okay, sounds like a non-story. Still, the exercise had an impact. Intelligence officials added a new training class, more taxpayer money spent on nothing, for analysts on how to judge and assess female foreign leaders, according to another official. So you had to institute gender sensitivity classes for intelligence analysts on the basis of a study that found no problem. The episode proved to be a preview of Miss Harris's priorities. Not only her priorities, let me take a second here. Not only her priorities, her administrative cadence. This is the kind of thinking and logic that we can look forward to if and or when she gets to the Oval Office. And again, not that I'm cheering for her to get there, but I'm still not convinced she's lost it yet. I still haven't been convinced that she's lost the election. The vice president put questions about gender and race at the center of many of the policy discussions in her office, aides and former administration officials said. Throughout her career, she pushed for policies aimed at systemic disparities and often used her bully pulpit to speak about what she saw as injustices. Yeah, like jailing parents for child truancy. Yeah, look up that one. What a great initiative that was. While Miss Harris's allies describe this as a defining feature of her vice presidency, one that separates her from her predecessors, including Democrats, she is not running on this part of her record. Yeah, probably because everybody around her said, "Don't. You'll sound like a racist and an idiot if this is what you're going to bring up." As she appeals to moderate voters and tries to defy Donald J. Trump's claims that she represents, quote, the radical left, which word policing intelligence reports looking for sexism kind of confirms, Miss Harris is emphasizing her broadest policies, abortion rights. What has she done on abortion rights? I'll ask it again as I've asked any number of times before. Okay. Roe v. Wade is defeated. It goes back to the states. What, since that time, has Kamala Harris done to attempt, not necessarily succeed in, but attempt to move the needle state to state on abortion rights? You know, I as a voter, I just want to see what is your leadership examples. Right? What have you done? You've gone to, I would assume, and again, this is a bad thing to do, I understand in life, to assume. But if I was for a thing, right? And the decision on said thing was now a state-by-state issue. I would assume that someone wanting to make a change on this thing would go to those states that either are on the fence or are already against the thing that I am for. And then I would use my bully pulpit, I would use my political connections, gravitas, skill, whatever else, to try to bend some elbows or twist some ears or something to try to move the needle towards my side of things. Now, whether I was successful or not in doing so would, to me as the voter, be effectively irrelevant as long as I could see or have some evidence presented to me that this person took charge of this issue and worked to move the needle. I would want to see that. I would want some evidence of that. And I have asked over and over and over again over the years, what has she done? And all I ever see is, oh, she made a speech. She did this, she did that, she talked about it. She's been out front on the issue. How? Broadest policies, abortion rights, entrepreneurship. Again, I'll ask how. Help for home buyers and tax relief for families with children. And again, I'll ask, how? She's had 3.5 years. How? What has she done? She's been vice president. She's not somebody just running for president for the first time. She's in the executive right now. What has she done? Not what she will do. What has she done? She rarely talks explicitly about how she would use government to address racism and sexism. I would love to hear it, though. And only sparingly mentions her own status as potentially the first woman, first Asian American, and first black woman to hold the presidency, all of which mean diddly squat. None of these things say anything about her ability. All of these things are non-determinative factors of her makeup. But okay. Quote, she learned that if she wanted to be the president of the United States, she would have to walk a very delicate tightrope when it came to race and gender, said Leah Wright Rieger, a political historian and associate professor at Johns Hopkins University. Quote, and that is exactly what we have seen from her, unquote. Right, so something that she believes deeply in, she is hiding from the American public on the chance that it might make her look bad. Might make her look like a zealot. So we're just going to Trojan horse her into the office without talking about it. Okay. Yet a close examination of her tenure in Washington shows Miss Harris's interest was steady. As vice president, she promoted an expansion of Medicaid coverage to post-pregnancy care, noting the elevated health risks for Black and Native American women as well as rural women. Okay, she lobbied for billions in funding community banks that serve disadvantaged areas and frequently lend to people of color. I wonder if the New York Times thinks it is appropriate for the federal government to portion out money, funding, and efforts to people based on their aesthetic. I mean, the only things here that make me feel fine is disadvantaged areas. Yeah, if you have poor areas of the country that need some economic assistance, sure. Rural women, okay, women who are outside the cities and maybe don't have the same kind of access to certain things, sure. But I mean, rural people, because women, there are men in rural communities too that might need some health risks taken care of. I don't know. Should you be setting things aside specifically for people on the basis of their gender or their race when it comes to this stuff? Unless it's something specific to that gender or race, right? During the pandemic, she repeatedly asked her vice presidential staff for demographic breakdowns on COVID vaccination recipients and pressed the administration's health officials to address gaps, according to 2 former administration officials. Well, yeah, since she couldn't mandate it across the country, she was trying to find ways to influence it to happen anyway. She pushed the federal bureaucracy to incorporate concerns about equity into routine business, so much so that her advisors seldom briefed her on domestic policies without having prepared a ready answer about their impact on women, Black and Hispanic people, and other racial minorities. How about the American public writ large for whom you serve, regardless of what they look like? Quote, she was always interested in race and gender, said one former aide. You know what? There are some adjectives that you might use to describe someone who is really interested in race and really interested in gender. They both end in ist. She was always interested in race and gender, said one former aide who requested anonymity because of lack of authorization to speak publicly. Too late. Quote, we all knew it was really important to her, so we would proactively add that to her briefings. She didn't have to ask for it, unquote. Right, so you were just basically telling her what she wanted to hear. You were providing a racist and a sexist with the information she would want to see to make her feel better about herself or something. Great. Ms. Harris's aides object to any implication that she is narrowly focused on women and racial minorities. Hold on. I don't know if you're aware of the paragraph above this sentence. Quote, she was always interested in race and gender, said one former aide. We all knew it was really important to her, so we would proactively add that to her briefings. She didn't have to ask for it, unquote. Ms. Harris's aides object to any implication that she is narrowly focused on women and racial minorities, saying she is concerned about any overlooked group, including low-income Americans of any race or ethnicity. What? Did I? Okay.
What? What is that? What the fuck is that?
Boy, talk about contradicts own point or argument. In the final stretch of this presidential campaign, as she has struggled to win over black male voters, I can't imagine why, when her surrogates are calling them crazy, when she's putting out press releases that she's going to do special programs for black males like legalizing pot so you can sell it, you know, because you're all drug dealers or, you know, people wanting to be drug dealers. Ms. Harris unveiled a policy package she said would help them build wealth. Oh, okay. A prime feature was subsidized loans for entrepreneurs to start new businesses. Which particular businesses again? Although her aides say the program would be available to borrowers of any race, but that wasn't the knee-jerk reaction, was it? This is the thing. Believe them when they tell you that they are racists. Believe them. The first bite at the apple was focused on black males, because she feels that black males are inherently disadvantaged because of what they are. Individuality be damned. They need help because of what they are. But no, really, it's available to any race. This reminds me, I got so many little anecdotes I can bring up. This reminds me of a story I did at the earliest time of my channel. You can look this up on my channel. I have a playlist called The Boom Experience. Or Down the Rabbit Hole. I think it might be in Down the Rabbit Hole. I might have, but anyway, there was this program at a school district in Washington State, and it was called the Boom Experience. It meant break out of the margins, the Boom Experience. And the advertising for this event was a sort of an inspirational outreach event for Black, Latinx, and Indigenous male students. That's what it said on the official publication from the public school district in Washington State. And I saw this because there were a couple of videos from previous events that I found very interesting. When I looked up this event, I thought, wait a second. I thought there was something like, I don't know, Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 that says if you accept federal money, you can't discriminate on the basis of events and so on race, sex, gender, etc. Like, wait a second. And so I emailed the school district at the time and I said, is this legal? Never got a response. I then emailed several of the news outlets in the area asking, hey, I see this thing. This might be a story. I never got a response back. But within a week of me sending out those emails, suddenly there was a little disclaimer at the bottom of the homepage for this event that said, even though this event is focused on Black, Latinx, Indigenous male students, this event is open to all students, regardless of... Yeah, they tried to get away with it, but they didn't. Finally. Except, of course, it was still... The discrimination was already baked into the thing, so who knows if anybody else felt like they would be welcome there to begin with. But they had to be forced by some yokel like me. I take credit for it. I figure I was the only one pointing it out. But anyway, yeah, believe them when they tell you at first blush what they believe in. Truly. Kamala Harris is a racist. There's just no two ifs, ands, or buts about it. She has racial preferences in who she wants to help out, who she wants to earmark money for. She's taken credit for focusing $6 billion worth of taxpayer money on HBCUs. Now, she has an agenda. She might not be running on it, but she has it. In the final stretch of this presidential campaign, as she has struggled to win over black male voters, Ms. Harris unveiled a policy package she said would help them build wealth. A prime feature was subsidized loans for entrepreneurs to start new businesses. Although her aides say the program would be available to borrowers of any race, critics assailed the proposal as favoritism to black men and questioned its constitutionality. Her late-stage play... at garnering black voters? Okay. Her late-stage play prompted one interviewer, the radio host Charlemagne the God, to ask Ms. Harris whether politicians downplay their efforts to help black people because it is a bad campaign strategy. It's not about their efforts to help black people. It's about saying you're going to use taxpayer money specifically for people based on their race. That's the problem. Quote, "I don't know that that's true," she said. "I am running to be a president for everybody, but especially black people. I am clear-eyed about the history and the disparities that exist for specific communities." You mean demographics. "And I am not going to shy away from that," unquote. Quote, "It doesn't mean my policies are not going to benefit everybody because they are," she said, "even though you told us they won't, or that their intentions will not." Asked about Ms. Harris's top policy interest, people who have worked closely with her do not mention immigration. Well, I don't think that's something you'd want to crow about anyway. An early high-profile assignment from Mr. Biden that brought her sustained criticism, including from some Democrats. Yeah, because she sucked at it. But former and current administration officials often note her work on community banks. Like what? Maternal health care. Like what? And lead pipe removal. Like what? All were issues that she first addressed as senator from California, then again as vice president. In what way? Let's see. Ms. Harris co-sponsored a Senate bill, to funnel billions of dollars to banks and credit unions that target distressed communities, saying the money would help Black and Latino entrepreneurs who lack access to financial credit. Not looking good. She often mentioned a neighbor who ran a nursery school she attended as a personal connection. Quote, "Since I was a child, I have known that small business owners hold the community together," she said recently. Yes, small business owners. Not based on their race. Just small business owners. It's difficult to run a small business regardless of your race. Ms. Harris's proposal made its way to the first pandemic aid bill signed by Mr. Trump. Wait, Donald Trump signed a bill that she sponsored and championed? Wait a second. How could he do that? It allocated $12 billion for these specialized financial institutions, the biggest investment ever, according to the Treasury Department. Oh, so it's more to Donald Trump's credit than it is to Kamala Harris. All right. The program was top of mind for Ms. Harris in November 2020 when she interviewed Wally Adeyemo for the job he now holds as Deputy Treasury Secretary. Okay, quote, "The first issue the vice president raised with me was, how do we get more funding into the network?" Mr. Adeyemo said. Quote, "We spent at least half of my interview, I'd say, talking about this specific issue. Into what network? And to whom? I'd love to know, was her priority people on the basis of their skin color by any chance?" Now here we go. Miss Harris pushed to distribute the money quickly. She later worked to secure another $6 billion from another federal agency and to enlist private corporations to bolster the institutions with deposits. Yeah, HBCUs. You're not mentioning HBCUs. Colleges that have a primarily black population. The COVID relief bill passed in 2021 offered Ms. Harris another opportunity to advocate for a top priority, lowering maternal mortality rates, okay? The law offered states federal matching funds if they expanded Medicaid coverage of postpartum care to 12 months instead of 2. Well, at least that covers all women and not just women of a particular color. Ms. Harris, who had introduced several maternal health care bills in Congress, urged her staff to create a plan to promote the new funding and pressure state governments to accept it. Again, if you have something that affects specifically one demographic or another in a provable way, I got no complaint against that, as long as it's there for everybody and you're not discriminating on the basis of race. The data on maternal mortality and injuries was shocking to her, said Michael Fuchs, Ms. Harris's deputy chief of staff at the time. She drove this issue. Okay. Well, good. Okay, you know what? I asked for it, and there's an example. She took on an issue, and she pushed to have it taken care of. All right. Great. There is an example of her leadership on something. How is this so difficult? Why is it that I never see this in articles about Kamala Harris? Is it because nobody knows about these things? Or there's so few and far between they've got nothing to say about it? All right, well, there you go. There's something. She hosted at least 4 White House roundtables, so what, or other events on maternal health care inviting health professionals, lawmakers, and women who had suffered from poor treatment. She convened what she said was the first ever full cabinet meeting on the topic. Okay, and that resulted in what? I'm fine with her holding events and such, but I want to see a return on the investment. Her pushing for funding on a specific issue to try to improve people's lives medically and otherwise, great. Great. What does holding a round table do? What did that result in? Ms. Harris stressed that black women were 2 to 3 times as likely as white women to die of pregnancy-related causes and that Native American women were twice as likely. Quote, we know the primary reasons why. Systemic racial inequities and implicit bias, she said at one event. Okay. How do you know this? And by the way, do you know an inequity... Sorry, do you mean inequity or do you mean disparity? I really have to ask. What racial inequities, injustices, in other words, do you have evidence of? Like someone was denied care or the same care on the basis of their race. You know this for a fact because... Why? This story's not going to tell us, but anyway. 46 states now offer the broader coverage compared to just 3 in 2021. Yeah, but this coverage went to all women, not just women on the basis of their race or gender. That might be her priority, that might be her agenda, but she wasn't passing a law that said this money only goes to people on the basis of their race, right? Right, I hope. Ms. Harris got similarly involved in the rollout of the Biden administration's multi-billion-dollar program to replace lead pipes. Similarly got involved. Well, I mean, she's the vice president. Okay, how much can I credit this with Kamala Harris taking the initiative or just Kamala Harris doing her job as vice president? Which is it? In appearances in Newark, Milwaukee, Pittsburgh, and elsewhere, Ms. Harris singled out certain plans as national models, noting that those at the highest risk of lead poisoning, quote, are invariably communities of color and poor communities, unquote. Because to be of color means you're also poor, I guess. You just assume that to be so. Okay. Because, you know, if you're wealthy and of color, then you're still going to be hit by it because the bad piping hits you on the basis of your race, not because of the economic conditions of where you're living, I guess. Eric D. Olson, an advisor with the political action arm of the Natural Resources Defense Council, said he saw Ms. Harris repeatedly press experts and local officials on how to speed up removal efforts on the ground. Quote, she was very interested in the details, she said. She called herself a nerd, unquote. Oh, well, if she called herself a nerd, Ms. Harris's attention to equity at times triggered blowback. Well, it depends on how you define equity, particularly as Republicans sought to cast diversity, equity, and inclusion work as wokeness run amok. Well, it is. In the fall of 2022, after a hurricane swept through Florida and elsewhere, she noted that minority and low-income communities face disproportionate risks for harm from extreme weather conditions. Yes, because, everyone with beachfront property are low income. I've got oceanfront property in Florida. Oh, you must be some poor minority low-income person. Quote, "We have to address this in a way that is about giving resources based on equity," she said at a forum in Washington. Senator Rick Scott, Republican of Florida, accused Ms. Harris of trying to direct disaster aid based on race. Well, if she noted that minority and low-income communities, that is an indicator, it was a distortion of her remarks. It was a distortion of her remarks? Well, who do you classify as being among minority in this instance? Yet it became a Republican talking point that the White House and the Federal Emergency Management Agency had to rebut, saying that hurricane relief was available to all. Then maybe you should stop talking about American citizens in terms of race. Maybe you should just leave that out of the dialogue. Racial demographic is irrelevant. If you have been damaged because of a natural disaster, the federal government is there to help you regardless of what you look like. So don't even bring it up. But she keeps bringing it up. So again, believe her when she tells you what her focus is. It was a distortion of her remarks. No, it wasn't. Ms. Harris's concerns extend to foreign affairs, where her questions about possible gender bias, remember the possible gender bias in intelligence reports? Yeah, possible gender bias in briefing reports reached the attention of Avril Haines, the nation's first female director of national intelligence. And she looked at the study that was done and saw there was no pattern of effect at all and was like, this was a waste of time, right? Ms. Harris's request for a review by the intelligence agencies was earlier reported by the Washington Post, but the results of the examination have not previously been reported. Okay, well now that we've had them and they found no pattern, now what? A specific class now teaches intelligence analysts how to better assess the context in which women leaders operate. So you don't want women leaders treated the same as male leaders? Okay. And the possible impact of gender on their career paths, decision-making, and policy choices, according to a U.S. official. So we have to look at their decision-making practices through a lens of gender? Oh. Sounds good. And briefing reports on foreign leaders are now regularly checked for potential gender bias, a senior intelligence official said. In what I need to know. I need to know, what are they looking for? What is it that, of all people, Kamala Harris was like, this is a problem when she first came into her vice presidency? What adjectives are the no-no words? I want to know what adjectives the intelligence community has used that are the no-no words. The no-no word that showed no pattern of use, but still requires special education to avoid. Ms. Harris also wanted more intelligence reporting on how gender inequalities in various nations weaken their national security, according to two senior administration officials who spoke on the condition of anonymity to discuss intelligence matters. She paid particular attention to Africa, Southeast Asia, and the Caribbean, regions that have been overlooked in mainstream foreign policy making, one of them said. Why? Why have they been overlooked in mainstream foreign policy making? Is there a reason for that? Or is she going after her own personal ethnic background? In Manila, she met with Filipina human rights activists. In Seoul, female business leaders. So she's a sexist. Okay. In Ghana, where she met female entrepreneurs in March 2023, she announced $1 billion in federal and private funds to help empower African women economically. Her message there was the same as to American audience. No, it wasn't. Oh, maybe it was. When we lift up the economic status of women, she said, all of society benefits. Yeah, well, ask the Fearless Fund how that kind of thinking is lining up with law right now, or legal challenge. If you're running a small business and you have a program for small businesses, the only qualifying element should be, I run a small business, not I, the adjective, gender, race, run a small business. But are we here for equal opportunity or tailored opportunity? Well, it's an opportunity economy, but an economy for whose opportunity? Anyway, go through some more of your comments here, and then we will wrap things up. SWD40, has Kamala been out tossing paper towels to the hurricane-affected communities to build some type of relationship? I don't know. Has she actually visited the hurricane zone at all? I mean, here's the thing. I can get, and I can understand, a president or vice president not going to a disaster area right away because the amount of security and coordination, everything that's necessary to protect our elected leaders, especially in this day and age, could severely hamper certain plans and projects and stuff. I could see that, so not right away. I get it. Has she even visited it once yet? I don't know. If she has, it hasn't been advertised to me at all. Let's see. Frosted Glass. If she said black people are taking the pipe, I'd have slightly more respect for her. Oh, taking the pipe. Oh man. TC LaChance. Of course she has not visited. It is the dreaded red state. Yeah. People were, there was a story, I guess now a couple months ago, where I think it was Chris Cillizza or somebody was like, Donald Trump is campaigning in New York. Why does he bother? It was something like that. And I was like, I don't know, Chris. Maybe not just ignore an entire possible constituency of the nation that you presumably want to be president over on the off chance that maybe you could change some minds. Like Hillary did when she ran, and she just ignored states completely because she wrote them off as she took them for granted, and then they turned on her. I don't know. Wouldn't it be funny if New York or New Jersey turned red this time around? That'd be nuts. Let's see. Advocates. Pretty sure Biden, Trump, and Kamala have all been to Asheville area for the prerequisite photo ops. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't followed every nit and gritty about the candidates' movements or photo ops, except for Kamala going to the border. That one in particular, or Trump at the McDonald's. Those are probably the two that I see. Shall call it. I doubt she's been to the southern border. No, she has. She made one. I did a couple of streams talking about it where her and her staff were really, really wringing their hands over whether or not they should make an appearance at the border while they were in Arizona a few weeks back, because it could be seen as, it could be mocked, or it could be this or that or the other. And I was like, you have to. You have to. If you pointedly avoid going to the border when you visit a border state seeking votes, that would be a terrible decision. You're going to be criticized either way, as you should be, I said at the time, but you should still go. And she did. She showed up, got some pictures taken, and the border security unions and everything else are like, she's terrible. She does nothing. Let's see. Anything else? Faustonia, hope all is well with you in Ireland. Mike Savage. Yes, Mike Savage. The Blargy Stone. Go kiss the Blargy Stone for Mike Savage. But with that, guys, I'm going to wrap things up. My voice is starting to give out. I've almost gone 2 hours. I don't usually try to go 2 hours. I try to go an hour and a half. 90 minutes or so is pushing it for me. 2 hours is probably too much. However, I will still be proverbially biting the bullet on election night. I plan on doing a stream starting roundabouts 4 p.m. Pacific time, an hour before the polls close on the East Coast, and just going with it. There may be some intermissions therein, so I can take a breather or a break, and I might hopefully have some guests on to pinch hit for me as I go the distance. But yeah, election night, I'm planning on doing a long-distance run on air as we follow along with the developments of the election as it happens. So that'll be Tuesday, November 5th. Elsewise, You can find me here Thursday nights, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, for TED Excellence, where I'll talk about a thing. No, I'll talk about a TEDx talk. And also have TEDx bingo and all that fun stuff. The thing will be whatever subject I come across at the time. I may or may not be preparing a link to the Discord server, which I forgot to do before the show started. Because, as you guys know, I'm always prepared for everything all the time. Also, do you know about the Discord server? I've got a Discord server. Link's now in the chat. If you'd like to join the Discord server, just click on that link. You'll find yourself on the landing channel called Say Hello. And in addition to saying hello, you just have to say the secret word. The secret word will tell me that you are not a bot, have actually watched the stream, and have thus earned the right, the privilege, the entitlement to join the Discord server. And today's secret word is, what's a good word from the stories we read today? CEO. There you go. Just say hello, CEO. That was a random word for you, and I'll know that you watched the show. Outside of that, everyone. How's the dog, cat, fox flag coming along? Oh, you didn't see it? Oh, well, I tweeted it out. You didn't see it? Let me see here if I can find it real quick. 1 second. Yes, there it is. So I was introduced to a cat fox or a dog fox flag, like a political flag, like a gender ideology flag or something, on the corner with frosted glass the other day. And I said, I need that. I need that to make a dog, cat, fox flag. Because obviously, dog, cat, fox needs his own flag. And there you go. That is Dog, Cat, Fox on the moon with his personalized flag. A dog print, a cat print, and a fox print. Dog, cat, fox with cat at the top of the pyramid because, well, I'm a cat person. So there you go. Dog, cat, fox in his astronaut suit on the moon. So there you go. That was the official Dog, Cat, Fox flag. But with that, everybody, as my voice starts to fade out, thank you guys so much for joining me today. Moderators, thank you for keeping an eye on things, even though everyone here is so well behaved. You have very, very little to do. Everybody who donated, either to myself or to the Leukemia Lymphoma Society, link is at the top of the chat box. Thank you guys so much for your generosity. Very much appreciated. Otherwise, everybody, I hope you have a good rest of your Sunday. I hope you have a good week ahead of you. Hope to see you on Thursday, if not earlier. Who knows? I might do ambush streams over the course of the week. There might be political things happening soon. Still waiting for those big October surprises to hit. You never know. And I hope you're all safe and well. If you're not well, please get well soon. And I will see you on the next one. Take care.